Hello, everyone. How are you? So I am waiting for Chris. Chris is logging on at the moment. He had some things he had to attend to. Um, we're on a very different time zone. So I'm trying to get I'm trying to put my headphones in while I'm talking to you guys. Hi, Jessica. What's up, boo? How are you? So while Chris logs on, we are going to answer a few questions. Any questions you guys have, please post in the comments. Anything you guys want us to talk about. Tonight, we are going to talk about a lot of different things. We are going to talk about Fauci, of course. That is the topic of everybody's conversation. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what we know, and we're going to give you our opinions on it. We're also going to talk about the new law in Texas. It is very controversial. It's the abortion law that passed in Texas. I believe it passed last Tuesday. So we are going to talk about that. And we are going to talk about a few other topics. We're going to talk a little bit about Australia. So I'm going to wait for Chris to jump on before we get into it. In the meantime, hi, Tammy. How are you? Twice in one day. Awesome. Yes, you get to see me twice in one day. Hi, Kathy. How are you? Hi, Charlene. How are you? Good. How are you, Dollface? I'm good, Jessica. How are you? Hi, Sherry. How are you? Please don't forget to like and share the video. When you are sharing the video, please make sure that you post it and make sure that it's public. It won't be everything you post will be public. I know some of you are very private about what you share, but when you share our videos, it'll reach more people if it's public. So it'll be just that video. It won't be everything on your page. Living the dream, girl, get it. Barbara, I love it. She's always on our YouTube. I love it. I love it. I love it. If you guys have not followed our YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. We are trying to build that platform. So yes, please subscribe to the YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. And let's welcome Chris to the screen.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
What's up, Chelly?
What's happening?
Oh, it's another day.
I know. It's crazy. So I'm telling you. So I was hoping you guys got on early because I'm sure Tisha could probably hear me, right?
No, she's downstairs. Yeah, we just got done eating dinner, and she's still down there with the kids.
Oh, okay. Well, so my day, I had to pick up my daughter from practice. I'll give you guys a little story how crazy my day was. So I was picking up my daughter from volleyball, and as I pull up to pick her up, I see like a bunch of kids on the street, and which is normal, right? It was a volleyball game actually. So I see a bunch of kids, and I'm kind of like peeping through the crowd for my kid, and I see a kid on the floor, or what I think from across the street appears to be a kid on the floor. So I'm like, and I see kids kind of like laughing and joking, being teenagers. So I don't think anything of it. I park a little in front of where this person is and across the street. So then I call my daughter because I don't see her. There's so many kids out on the street. And I was like, hey, I'm right here. So she comes over and then I go, hey, like what happened to that kid on the street? She's like, what kid on the street? My daughter, there were so many people, my daughter didn't even see him. So then I tell my daughter, go. So my daughter runs back out and she goes and she looks, she runs back. She's like, Mom, that's not a kid. That's an older man. And I was like, what? She's like, no, it's an older man. Like he's not moving or anything. And I was like, what? And I'm like, well, did someone call an ambulance or something? Right. So I grabbed my cell phone and now mind you, I'm in like shorts and a t-shirt. I just like jump, my hair is a mess. I just jump out of my car. And then there's a guy who happens to be a teacher at the school. And he's they have 911 on the phone, and this older man is purple, literally purple. He appears to be Hispanic, and his face is purple. So they're giving him, the gentleman is giving him chest compressions, and he's talking to 911. We're waiting for an ambulance. So I move his head to turn his head to the right, and I put my hands underneath his head because his head was on the cement. And he's purple. I'm trying to feel for a pulse. I don't feel for a pulse. I asked the gentleman who's giving chest compressions if he gets tired, I'd be more than happy to switch with him. And he's like, no, I'm good. So a short time later, the ambulance arrives. He does do these. It looked like a shock, like if you shock someone. So the guy's like, oh, I think he's breathing. And I'm like, don't stop the chest compressions. Like, continue to do the chest compressions. Don't stop them. So as he's doing that, again, I'm still in between checking for a pulse, and I don't feel anything. Now at this time, he has wet himself, which, me being the police and dealing with this several times, I know is never a good sign. His skin color from the beginning was never a good sign. He did have two like bursts of like these shocks, and the guy's like, oh, I think he's breathing. And I do know that when people pass, your body will pass gases, like the gases that are in will come out, and it's kind of like you're breathing, but you're not necessarily breathing. Your body is just releasing gases. So the paramedics get there and they start going to work, right? Like there's a fire engine, which I will say kudos to fire truck number 35 and ambulance 52 that were on scene from Chicago. Great job. They really went to work. They were doing chest compressions for over 20 minutes. They put the what's the machine called again? Chicken nugget moment. The
defibrillator.
Yes, I was having a moment. So they put it on him. We're standing back, and I felt so helpless. And so you could tell the teacher is too, because he happens to be a teacher. We're both standing there like doing nothing because there's nothing we could do. But we were hoping that this older man, like something positive would come out of it. So they did 20 minutes. They finally made a call. They were injecting him with, I don't know what the medication is called. And now, mind you, this man he didn't smell like alcohol or didn't appear to be having like an overdose of any sort. He was an elderly gentleman. And my assumption was he lived nearby because he was out walking on the street. He had like a keychain around his neck. I didn't search his pockets because at the time, the epi, right, correct. So at the time, I didn't search his pockets for ID or anything because I thought trying to save his life is more important. So we had no idea where he lived. I was hoping someone came out and saw him or something. Eventually, his son shows up. There's, I guess, an elderly home on the corner of where my daughter goes to school. And I guess he lived there. Maybe he was just going for a walk or something. So the son does show up and is like, oh my God, that's my dad. They wound up calling the hospital, which usually when they're bringing someone, but usually when they call, it's because they're going to they want a doctor to pronounce them. So it didn't go well. They took him in the ambulance. They never really said anything to us, but I just kind of knew already. And he did have a pacemaker, which is when the gentleman was doing chest compressions. I think it was trying to shock his heart back to start. And unfortunately, it just didn't. So I came home and I was feeling pretty bad. I was feeling bad because I thought maybe I could have changed that had I jumped out the minute I saw him on the floor. Like there were a few minutes, you know what I mean, in between. And maybe I could have helped that. So I felt like I felt like shit. Literally, I felt like shit. And then my husband was just like, well, you didn't know. Like, you really didn't know. You thought it was kid. And nobody was like screaming or yelling for help or anything like that. You know what I mean? So his son was there and I didn't even have the heart to like say anything to his son. Like, so that's kind of how it started. That was my day today. But I do believe that God has control. And if it was his time, it was his time. I tried to help, but unfortunately, you know, God makes that final decision, not me. But it was rough. It was rough. I felt bad.
I think the only time, and I understand, like, I don't know if we talked about it on air, but remember that time I told you I helped that little kid, and I don't know if he made it or not. I just know that they put him in. It's a crappy feeling to go home to it. So I get what you're saying, like, but like they were telling me, hey, at least you tried. I mean, there's so many people that walk by and won't stop to help, and I used to get mad, be like, why? But let's be honest, how many of us actually know what to do?
Right. Some
And
people don't. I get it, but I'm like, at least call
call for
911.
help.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I'm thinking teenagers, all these teenagers out there, you all have cell phones. And I get like teenagers don't know, which actually I'm going to actually have a good conversation with my daughter because I was so in my own feelings. And I'm thinking about this as we're speaking right now. I didn't even ask her how she felt. So shame on me. I get the I get the crap mom award for today because I didn't even ask her how she felt.
Well, you had a lot going on. I mean, that's especially if you were down there for that amount of time. You know what would you say? You were there for at least an hour. If
Yeah.
you were down for from beginning to end, that there's so much going on that it's not that your daughter's not important, but who was important, you were trying to help, and then
Yeah.
after that, you kind of just dealing with what the outcome, the possibility of the outcome could have been. So I mean, that's understandable. I don't think your
Yeah.
daughter would be upset.
No, but I definitely got to check on her now that I think about it. And plus, I want to just kind of have that conversation. Like, if you see something like that and you just don't know, you call 911. I rather it be I rather it be nothing at all than it was something and you didn't do anything because teens probably don't know what to do, right? We don't talk to them about death and all these kind of things. So yeah, that was the start of my day. So, well, not the start of my day. That was the end of my day, pretty much. But here we are. Let's get into it. So as soon as I came home, I had to like get my mind right. So I was like, oh, I got to start set. I had to start watching videos because I was like, I got to keep my mind busy. I got to keep my mind sidetracked. So that's when I started sending the shitload of videos. I was like, Chris is gonna be like, here she goes again.
Now, some of them you sent me, like I've either read something on it or I watched something similar. So it wasn't I didn't watch all of them,
Right.
especially
Well,
like the Fauci one, and you guys will see. We'll get into it in a second, but I've so everybody I think should know by now. Like if I'm at work and I'm at my desk, I'm watching the news or a podcast. Not so much the news, but a podcast, something with what's going on, current events. Um, there's so much, especially right now. There's so much going on. Like trying to toggle between, and I know you might feel like this too, Charlie. Like trying to toggle between the crap that's going on in your state and in your cities, like just your cities alone. Like that could be a lot. Like for you, it's Chicago, much less. Then you got Illinois. So like that's a lot already. And then you got the larger picture. So as I was trying to see, okay, what's going on in San Francisco or Sacramento, some of the cities that are surrounding me that affect me. Um, then you got this, recall. Trying to get a little bit of everything this way. I'm informed and I know what's going on. It's a lot to keep up with.
yeah, no, it is. So that's why I'm like the parts that I really want to drive across. I was able to send you like timestamps so that we don't have to like redo that or go through the whole videos. So I was able to send you timestamps. What do you want to start first? So tonight we are going to talk about. We are definitely going to talk about Fauci and the information that was recently released. I'm sure you guys have been hearing about that all over because that's been topic of conversation. We are going to talk about the Texas abortion law that went into effect last Tuesday. So we are going to talk about that. Actually, there is an article I saw where the Supreme Court actually has um, made abortion a non-criminal offense. So I'm by the article, I didn't even know that an abortion in Mexico was a crime, and you can get, I believe, 3 to 5 years in prison if you had an abortion and went against the against the law. And the case took place in Mexico in a place called Guajila. And I found that so interesting because that is where I am rooted from. So that is where my grandfather is from. So that is my hometown in Mexico. So I just found it kind of interesting since we were on the topic of abortion. So what else were we going to talk about? We're going to talk about Fauci. We're going to talk about Texas. Oh, we're going to talk about Australia
Yeah, there was that too.
and lockdowns and talk a
And
little bit about that.
I think that is it. I'm going back to the group chat real quick, and let me see. I think it was it. I think that's the three topics for like we'll go Texas, COVID, Fauci, and Australia.
Okay, cool.
Hold on. Right, all right.
I gotta bounce. Other love, Chelly girl. Big hugs. Big, huge hugs to you and your daughter. Thank you, Jessica. Hi, Rose. How are you? Prayers for that man's family. Yes. I'm watching Chelly do makeup. I miss it. I'm going to have to back this up real quick. Be right back.
All right.
So,
John Tisha is in the background. She says hi to everybody. She will be looking at some of your guys' comments tonight. Just wanted to throw that out there. So
great. Yeah, John Tisha is, she's not on screen, she's still here. Trust me, she's still here. She helps us out a lot with going through the comments. She pulls them up for us. So Chris and I are not kind of looking back and forth, and we can kind of just focus on what we're doing. And plus, she knows I have a chicken nugget brain, so she helps me out a lot. This show would not be what it is without her. That's why we are all one. We're here for each other. We help each other out. We get each other through these shows.
before we get started, though, I do want to go and so we don't do it at the end of the night, and so we don't forget. I'll go to the first one for our officer memorial page, unless you have somebody in mind already, Chelly.
So I was gonna actually do a little different thing today.
Okay.
Only because I was looking through the Memorial Dawn page, and the last few were COVID related deaths. Not that that's not important, okay? But I started thinking we do a lot and we promote a lot of heroes because that is something near and dear to me, and I feel that they don't have. I mean, and it's near and dear to all of us because we are all one on this platform. So. But I've been thinking a little bit, and you guys also know that something that hits home to me is when children die because they're gunned down. So I thought for tonight's show, I wanted to switch it up just a little bit, and we're going to kind of go back and forth. We're not forgetting our officers. They are just important. They mean a lot to us, but children are important too. And I think that they get forgotten as well. I started thinking about this and I thought, why do they get forgotten? Their name are not on billboards. No one's talking about them anymore. And their parents are left with that emptiness. I can't imagine what it would be like to lose a child, and nor do I want to. So, that being said, sorry, give me a second. Let me run the banner really quick. So tonight, our hero is going to be DeJory Wilson. I'm going to put a picture up of her as soon as I get a chance to go here. This is DeJory Wilson. She was killed last year at this time. She was shot and killed. She was in a car driving with two other adults, and some animal sprayed the vehicle, and this baby was killed. The other two people, I believe, are alive and well. So to me, I thought this is going to be something something new for our page. I didn't even discuss it with Chris and Jantisha because I think that I know that they wouldn't have a problem with that. Um, and to me, I think kids deserve to grow up. Kids deserve to have a childhood. Kids to deserve to have their teenage years and high school years and college years and their first true love. They deserve all of that and so much more. So kids are near and dear to me. So I thought that we would include this in our page. So tonight, this is our hero. And if her family is out there, if they happen to ever see this, my heart is with you. And I will never forget. Nobody on this panel will forget because we're not going to let them. So this is our hero.
And no, we may not have discussed it, but I'm good with it. I think that these things are important. Like just as important as a police officer, people we got to see stuff like this, and we need to recognize and the thing or recognize the people. I don't even know if that comes off right, but let people see the things that are happening, and there's other individuals that are involved, especially the kids. And I think this is a good reminder that hey, there's a lot of life lost out there. And to me, I know, like, and I couldn't imagine either. My kids, losing them, nor do I want to. Um, but I think this is important. So me and Tisha, 100%. I think that's a really good thing. It's a little emotional, more
It is.
so,
It
more
really is.
so, because I'm over here getting choked up.
And
Um,
just so you guys know, we're gonna do. What made me think about this is that I've always shared stuff, especially with kids that hit home, and we kind of mostly know our local news, right? Because that's what's put out there. So this popped up in my memories, and every time there's something that happens with a child, I put it out there because I feel it doesn't get enough coverage. It gets like a few like quick, and then it's gone, and nobody hears about it again. So when this popped up in my memories, I thought, you know what? I shared it on my page and I put never forget the babies. Um, so I just thought we'd add it to our page. And like I said, Chris and John Tisha, I know that they're totally fine with this. And we're not just going to focus on Chicago babies. I am going to make it a point of looking for babies who were killed because those are people we should. I think that if we start remembering, or if we start focusing on all this tragedy, maybe out there we'll start making changes. Maybe we'll start being the change we want to see. Maybe we are the hope that these babies need to have a future. Anything that we can do, I'm going to try to do it. So that's that. But rest in peace, Angel, and my heart goes out to her family. All right. What do you want to start with?
all right, so we think we should move on and or go with Fauci first. Not move on, but go with Fauci first, and then from there we'll move to the abortions in Australia. So there is a lot coming out with Dr. Fauci, um, and I think it was 900 pages they released. I'm going to double check, um, but you do, and I don't know if it's official yet, but I know that there has been a push to try to pursue Dr. Fauci for lying to, I believe it was Congress. And a lot of this is coming from Rand Paul. So he's
Correct.
really been on Dr. Fauci lately, calling him out. Um,
Well, he's called him out in the past as well. This is not just the first time he's called him out on some BS. And fun fact, I did not know that he was a doctor. Did you know that?
yes. I didn't
Didn't
know
know
it the
that.
whole time. I didn't know it the whole time. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've known it, since I've seen his name. But I've known, I think it's been a couple months now. Um, One of the podcasts that I was listening to, or maybe it's been longer than that. Now that I'm thinking about it, but I know he had said something. They were bashing him, saying that he has no idea what he's talking about. And then I want to say it was Ben Shapiro that I was watching. They played a clip and he came out and said, "I am a doctor." I think he does. I have to double check, but I think he does. Might be a heart surgeon. If somebody knows exactly what he does, let us know in the comments. He's not dumb. So they were trying to act like he didn't know anything, in the medical field. He comes out with that. I was like, wait, okay. So then I looked into it a little bit at the time, and it's been a while, but yeah, he is to me, I think he's a pretty interesting guy because you have somebody he's not just a politician. So you get a different, I think with him, you get a different perspective when he's talking. Like, he's not just bringing up conspiracy theories. He's not just spewing stuff out. You're getting something from a professional point of view. So when he's talking to Dr. Fauci, these are two educated men having a discussion. And I think what people fail to realize, and not saying anybody on this, but just I'm kind of speaking in general, is that it's almost like if you don't have a master's degree, a bachelor's
degree, an ophthalmologist.
Yeah, there you go. A doctorate, and you don't like in you're not a super specialist in viruses, then you don't have no right to talk about it. Or who knows? Rand Paul might have studied it while he was in medical school, or might have done some more studying. It's just not what he practices. And I don't like when people talk to other people like, "Hey, you're dumb. You don't have this isn't your profession. You don't have a doctorate in this specific area." I don't think that having anybody who has a degree out there, no offense, but I don't think having a degree necessarily makes you a professional. And I think the degree's good, but you have to practice. And with somebody like Rand Paul, I think that, hey, he's had patience. And I think that he, from some of the stuff that I've heard him say, like, hey, this guy's really on it. I think he reads up, he researches, he educates himself. I think he's probably the one guy that if he challenges Dr. Fauci and he tells Fauci, hey, no, you're wrong, this is what it is, I'm probably going to roll with him, just because he actually seems like to be the most legit person challenging what's going on.
I agree. So if you can pull up the video, the one that I put with the timestamps, and put it at 34 seconds, so we can kind of show people receipts, show them what we're talking about. You need common sense. Yeah, you do.
Ooh, hold on. I'm having some technical
difficulties.
Yeah, my other screen where we're sharing the videos from is currently, hold on, it has gone black. Let me reset real quick. Okay.
So while Chris is setting that up, we are going to play a video. We're going to play 3 different parts of this video. It's only going to be a few seconds of each video. And we are going to talk about each part of the video. The first clip that we're going to play, we'll talk about it afterwards, and then we'll play the second clip. They're not very long. They're very short. I was able to timestamp them today so that we don't have to listen to minutes and minutes of stuff.
All right, so real quick, just to make sure, we're doing the one from Michael Knowles, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it should be at the 34-second mark.
Here we go.
John Tisha said, hold, please. Please don't forget to like and share this video. Please make it public. We would greatly appreciate it.
All right, here we go.
Thank you, Tammy.
Rand Paul grilled Dr. Fauci specifically over whether or not Dr. Fauci had funded or supported in any way gain of function research, period, but specifically in the Wuhan Institute of Virology where the coronavirus sprang from. Gain of
Just while you're putting that on
maybe North Carolina, but really not anywhere. It didn't happen. No way, no how.
Here we go.
The Intercept just filed a Freedom of
that's not
Information
it.
Act request.
It's too far forward. It's at 34 seconds in the video. And just really quick, we're going to talk about gain of function. For those of you who don't know what gain of function is, the definition from the National Institute of Health means you take an animal virus, you increase the transmissibility to humans. That is what gain of function means. That is the definition by the NIH. The NIH is the National Institute of Health. So in case you don't know what they're talking about when you say gain of function, that's what it means. All right. So you should be looking for 32 seconds, Chris.
Here, make them more transmissible. Dr. Fauci says, absolutely not.
Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain of function research in the Wuhan Institute
Do they fund
of
Dr.
Virology.
Barrick?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain of function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain of function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina.
You don't think inserting
China.
a bat virus spike protein that he got from the Wuhan Institute into the SARS virus is gain of function?
That is
you would
not
be in the minority because at least 200 scientists have signed a statement from the Cambridge Working Group saying that it is gain of function.
Well, it is not. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain of function.
Now you could tell Fauci's real nervous here. You could hear.
So pause right there real quick. So yeah, this is what I was watching earlier, right? And when listening to him go back and forth with Rand Paul with Dr. Fauci, and I know I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people who caught that when he says this was a gain of function research, but if it is, I'm like, so you're saying there's a possibility, and right there, for me, I mean, he hasn't had no credibility in a long time. I mean, since I've seen the dude come out on TV last year. But that's just another one. Was like, look, now everything that you're going to say from this point on is it's a load of crap. And this happens every time that he speaks. He gets to a certain part and then he says something that you know is a lie or you know he's BSing, and then everything that follows, you can't take it for what it is, because he'll straight up lie to, he'll lie to the whole nation, and then go about his day. I honestly think he sleeps good at night.
I really do too, because I think it's money over people. Again, follow the money. That's kind of what I think about this. You hear him kind of stutter over his words a little bit. And then it's true. He says one thing, but then he throws in that it's like, I'm sorry, but, it's the buts for me. Not to mention, with all the emails, et cetera, being released and all the information coming forward, Fauci knew from a virologist. Well, we're going to get into that in a little bit, but he knew January 31st of last year. January 31st, he knew. Okay. So, Chris, if you can go to minute 242 of the same video.
in no way, no how. The Intercept just filed a Freedom of Information Act request. It learned through the documents that were released that the NIH, National Institutes of Health, issued a bat coronavirus grant to a group called the EcoHealth Alliance. This was for $3.1 million. It included $599,000 that the Wuhan Institute of Virology used in part to identify and alter bat coronaviruses that were likely to infect humans. This is really bad for Dr. Fauci. In the words of, I mean, you don't need to take my word for it. I'm not an epidemiologist, you know, I'm not an expert. But Dr. Richard Ebright, who is a molecular biologist at Rutgers, took a look at these documents. He said, quote, "The documents make it clear that assertions by the NIH director, Francis Collins, and the NIAID director, Anthony Fauci, that the NIH did not support gain-of-function research or potential pandemic pathogen enhancement at the Wuhan Institute of Virology are untruthful." So that was a very diplomatic way of saying Fauci lied. He lied about his role.
You could kill it.
All right.
No, he gave the name of the doctor. See, I'm here for the receipts. I'm here for all of the receipts. He gave the name of the virologist, and he said what he said, that it was untruthful. I wanted to, people should watch The Band Plays On. It's about AIDS virus, and Fauci was the little shit who held so much about AIDS. And correct, if you remember, the medication, I talked about it before on this. We've talked about this before. It was the medication given for AIDS patients that was like, oh, it's the new savior for AIDS patients. And what it wound up doing was actually killing AIDS patients that much quicker. And I can't remember the name of the medication at the moment because I wasn't thinking about it. But my uncle happened to be one of the victims in regards to that. So that is actually true. I know a whole lot about that. I just can't think of the name of the medication at the moment. I'm sorry. I've got a lot on the brain. But that is actually true. Fauci was behind that as well. And I don't even, AZT, yes. Thank you, Tammy. AZT, we've talked about it before on this show. But yes, and he's still around. I don't make it make sense.
Yeah, and just double checking what I said earlier, it was 900 pages. That it was the Intercept that released or that broke the news that they had more than 900 pages of material related to the U.S. funded coronavirus research in China, and that was put out on the 6th.
Correct.
So I think something for me, like as I'm watching like these podcasts or I'm watching the news and you hear breaking news and I'm trying to keep up with everything going on, sometimes I'll read about it before anybody, goes and does a podcast on it. But then sometimes you'll get stuff like this, like, wow, it was put out. That was 2 days ago that they wrote about this. And it was just today that I heard about it. And I've been online the last 2 days, kind of trying to keep up with what was going on. But if Trump came out and did something stupid, and he ain't even the president, it's going to be all over the news. Everybody's going to be talking about it. We know about it right now. And this is I think one of our biggest problems in America is that the topics we should be talking about and the things that should be being discussed, like we funded this research and Dr. Fauci has lied. He's been lying and he's horrible at his job. Instead of coming out and talking about that and saying, hey, let's replace this guy. We covered up with a whole bunch of other nonsense and drama. They're really not even talking about Afghanistan right now. Like,
correct.
We're just going to brush this stuff on and we're going to move on to the next big thing or the next hot topic. I say big thing, but next hot topic. And that's kind of what we have on today. The next one is the abortions. So that's why they want that to be the center of focus. So we're not paying attention to everything going on. But I think this, to me, this is important, if not more important at this moment. Not that the abortion issue isn't, but the abortion issue isn't killing our economy. The abortion issue isn't not getting people help. This COVID issue and Dr. Fauci and what he's done, and this has hurt people. So it's what's currently hurting people in more ways than just one.
Right. And since we're, yeah, I agree with you. There's how many people have died? It's a lot of people. And I don't think any of them are going to be happy about knowing all this. I think that a lot of us suspected a lot of lies, right? I think there were a lot of things that were the non-transparency that had people like up in arms, things that were just going on. No, we don't need the video anymore. Thank you. So just a lot of things where people like us who read and we're like, some things don't make sense. We kind of knew, right? But now you have it in black and white. You have virologists who go to a lot of damn school and do a lot of damn research saying, yeah, he was untruthful, right? So for me, again, the transparency. When anyone is not being completely transparent, when somebody is trying to silence other people, you have to think why. They're not going to silence you if you're full of shit. They're going to let you speak and speak and speak so they could just be like, look, they're crazy. You know what I mean? And they're going to back that shit up with receipts. So that's kind of how I feel about him. I'm not a fan of his. I haven't been a fan of his ever since AZT. So he's, yeah, I hope he does go to jail. And I know that Rand Paul is putting something to hold him accountable. I know he is trying to push forward legislation to make him accountable. And I can't remember what it was called, shit. But Rand Paul's on his ass, period. That's the whole bottom line. So at least somebody's doing what they need to be doing. You mentioned how we're not talking about Afghanistan anymore, right? So I was reading some articles within the last few days. I believe Dan Bongino had posted something on Rumble. And there was a gentleman, I can't remember his name, so I'm not going to even try at the moment, who was talking about planes full of Americans that can't get out of Afghanistan.
They're, I believe it was, they're being held hostage at the airport, and the Taliban is not letting them go.
Correct. So they're doing all these things, right? Because we have talked about it before, smoke mirrors, right? They're going to put all these other things out to keep you sidetracked and to keep your mind somewhere else, right? How do you think the whole ivermectin thing started? Like, I mean, how do you know what I'm talking about with the ivermectin thing?
Yes.
The whole
So,
like breakout in Oklahoma or whatever.
Yeah. So and that's another one where, oh man, I wrote the name down. I have to. It's at work. It's on my. I have a little sticky. So there's oh man, it's a process that we go through, right? So. And if somebody knows what the symptom is called or the theory of why this works, I can't. So the gist of it is if you read the news and it says, it'll tell you like something that you know is a flat out lie, like Trump is the best president ever, and you're like, okay, that's a lie. He had his faults. And then on the next page, it has something to do with like if the U.S. bombed Syria, 20 soldiers dead. You're like, oh, that's fact. It's like, hey, the same newspaper's writing this stuff, but you're going to call one out going, okay, we know that's not 100% true. Well, what makes anything else in that newspaper true? So when we're talking about these planes on the in Afghanistan on, the tarmac or at the airport and they're waiting, I'm like, okay, Do we really have planes waiting there? Because they said we got everybody out, and from what I understood, there was no more planes there. They told us there was no more planes there, so maybe they're lying. And then you turn around and you go to Oklahoma, and a part of me wants to believe, okay, maybe we have people in planes. Then you go to Oklahoma, and they flat out lied to everybody. They're like, hey, you got all these people taking the, what was it, ivermectin, the horse paste, and going to the tractor store, and we got all these people shot, and they're waiting to get in, but we can't get them in because they've been shot with guns or whatever they were talking about, and our hospitals are full. And then when people started looking into it, it's like, well, wait, actually there wasn't. There was only had one gunshot victim that I believe it was this year in the county that they're talking about, and it was months ago. And that hospital that they were talking about released a statement saying that none of that was true. And that doctor that came out and said that he didn't work for them. He was just like, they had like a partnership with them. So the story wound up just being a hoax. It was false the whole way around. And yet it still leaves us in a situation like, what do we believe is really going on in the world, in the nation? Because you obviously can't trust the news.
Nope. And this is why I have this up. What's truth and what's a lie? You have to be very cautious of what you read. And I think you need to take, in this day and age, everything with a grain of salt, because there's so much crap out there, right? So much crap out there. And yes, someone posted, Autumn posted, it was retracted. Yeah, we know that it was retracted. We know that it was bullshit. If you look at who the source was, there was an article about how it even started and how it came to be. But again, I think that that's a tactic that people use, let me throw this out and make this big right now, and so we can forget about other shit that's happening. As far as Afghanistan, there was an article also, and it was stating that the one who is stopping those planes from coming was the actual United States. And it was pretty informative. I think I might have sent it in the group, but I sent so many. So if I find it, I will post it in the comments of the video so that you guys can refer to these videos.
That's some good news that they're putting out, like, so, or comments that we got coming in, as far as, they haven't let the planes up because they can't vet the people on board. And I guess kind of the point is, like, I haven't heard that. The news that and this what happens, like, if you don't do the extra research, which I probably would have eventually done it and looked more into it, but you only get part of the story. And it sucks because, like, you really can't just read something and be like, oh, that's it. Like, you have to go and you really have to look and do more research. You can't just cite one source or go to one source and say, okay, well, that's the day, I'm good, I got it. No, because they can't just be honest and report what is really going on. And honestly, when I see that, if none of the news channels are on the same page and they're all telling different stories or different variations, to me, they're all lying.
Well, it was funny. Like, after this all came out, I don't know if you saw, there was an article, and it was funny because it was all true. I checked it. So CNN, MSNBC, and there was one other news source. Maybe it was CBS. Don't quote me on the CBS, but I know MSNBC and CNN for sure. So they did an interview with Fauci in regards to all this. And can you believe that no one asked him the questions? No one asked him about the stuff that was released. It makes you want to think, right? Because the news is supposed to get their shit out there, especially CNN. They're like the biggest gossipers in the world, right? So they're going to want a hot story. They're going to want to push it. Again, I will say to you again, when the narrative does not match what they want to put out, they will squash a story. That would have been the first thing I'd have been asking him.
Hey, so we're watching this show right now, Clickbait. So we've been watching the show Clickbait, and the similarities that I'll make between the show and real life is that you kind of get the first hand on these reporters, and that there's one guy, he's just like, he's so happy because he broke the news. And as we were watching, I was like, you know what? I know this is fake and it's a story, but this is how these guys must be in real life, because they gotta sample off of something when they're doing these movies. So these guys are trying to break whatever the latest news is, and they don't care who they hurt or what they do. They're going into people's, and this is a show, but in the show it's like, hey, they're going into people's houses, they're getting into people's business, and it kind of gives you an idea. Like for me, I was like, you know what? That I don't see that being much different than real life. Like if these guys could drop the latest story, false or not, and it gets them views, they're going to do it. If it brings in money, because once the money hits, you're not there. It's not going away. Somebody's not going to come back and take back money because somebody got a false or gave a false report. So it just goes to show you like where our culture is at in America. It's all about getting the lights and getting your name out there. It doesn't matter who you hurt. And to me, that's why we're in this. Part of the reason why there's so many reasons why we're in the mess, but that's another reason why, is that there's no accountability. And I honestly think a lot of people's morals and they're just slowly going away. They don't care because it's not about anybody else. It's just about them and what gets them further along.
Right. I agree. So we are going to move on because this next topic, I know it's going to be a doozy. So we are going to move on to the abortion law in Texas. But I did mention how there was something going on as far as even in Mexico. As when I was looking up, I found this out as I was looking for more information on the abortion law in Texas. And in Mexico, I did not know that abortion was criminal. I did not know that. Until I was reading, you know how when you stumble upon something as you're looking for something else. So did you just pull up the Wikipedia site?
I did. I was trying to.
Because I have it sitting there too. So good. We're on the same page. All right, here we go. All right, so basically what it says is abortion in Mexico is legal on demand. Until 2021, its legal status varied by state. But on September 7, 2021, the Mexican Supreme Court unanimously, I don't know what word I was reading, ruled that penalizing abortion is unconstitutional, decriminalizing it across the whole country. The procedure is available on request to any woman up to 12 weeks into a pregnancy in Mexico City and the states of, I don't know how to say that, Oaxaca? I think it's Oaxaca, Hidalgo, and Veracruz, but was severely restricted in other states. As of April 2015, 138,792 abortions have been carried out in the capital city since its decriminalization in 2007. The abortion laws and their enforcement vary by region, but in conservative parts of the country, women are routinely prosecuted and convicted for having abortions. More than 679 women have been convicted for abortion in conservative-leaning states, such as in Guanajuato. So, and I know that this started again, like I said, I know there was a case in Coahuila, sorry. And that's kind of how it got to the Supreme Court. So John Tisha just put it in the comments. If you want to read it further, please do. We are going to get into Texas. So can you pull up the Texas one when you get a chance? So that is the full article. You can look at it. It is on the Daily Wire. You can look it up on Wikipedia. It's all of those things. Now, I'm going to say this before we get into this, and Chris and I, we have talked about this several times before. I am pro-choice. Now, that being said, don't come for me, right? I am pro-choice with certain things, right? I think that if a woman has to have an abortion, then I think that should be done in her first trimester. I also think if you want an abortion, the government shouldn't have to pay for it. I do believe that the only time the government should pay for it, if it's some sort of rape or incest or something like that, I wouldn't mind my dollars going to that. So That is my opinion on abortion. Okay. Chris, what's your opinion on abortion before we get into it?
So I take the pro-life stance, right? Um, I do think in some cases, um, rape, incest, medical conditions. So, like if something's going on and that could affect either the mother or the baby, um, maybe something might have to be done in order to save one or the other. And I know those situations might be rare, but um, I think that those right there are like my okay. The bare minimum. I think there should be an age limit to it, though. I think if it's like 16 years old, and this is just something I was thinking about earlier, like if they're under 16 and they were raped or it's incest, then if the family wants to go through with it because it might be too dramatic for the little girl to have a baby or whatever, okay, maybe. But I get really torn because I'm like, hey, the event, if somebody was raped or there was incest, like that's traumatic as it is. I don't think having a baby would be traumatic. It would just be hard. And when I start going down this hole, it always comes back to I just find myself like up. I can't. I have to say it's. I'm still up on the fence with the rape, incest, and medical conditions. Like I don't know. Um, I honestly think the easy fix to this is what if we didn't have these medical this technology we have today and we couldn't do this stuff, how would nature take care of it? And let's just call it that. If we go back to biology, like in fats and stuff like that, like boys are boys, girls are girls. uh Nature, if nature needs to naturally abort the baby, it will. We shouldn't be playing God. We shouldn't be playing dictator, or in control somebody's life. That's kind of where I'm where my biggest stance is outside of those three things. Like, and that's even hard for me. I feel like when you open the door a little, it just leads to 6 months or 6 weeks, and then you said first trimester, and then next thing you know, we're talking about what is it, second or third trimester abortions, like that. I don't know. It's crazy. That's kind of a little bit where my mind is at with abortions. I'm against it.
Okay, so now I'm going to read you the Texas Heartbeat Act. So basically, it's the Texas Abortion Statute. It, other known as the Texas Heartbeat Act, is an act of the Texas legislature. It was introduced as Senate Bill 8 and House Bill 1515 on March 11th of 2021. Was signed into law on May 19th of 2021 and went into effect September 1st of 2021. It is the first 6-week abortion ban in the United States and the first of its kind to rely on enforcement by private individuals through civil lawsuits, rather than by the state through criminal enforcement. The Act establishes a system where members of the public can sue abortion providers, not the person having the abortion, for a minimum of 10,000 US money in statutory damages. The act is de facto ban on most abortion in Texas. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You guys can read it if you want. There is a part in it where it does say that 6 weeks is because that's usually when you can detect a heartbeat. I don't actually think that's accurate, to be honest. I have 5 children and I do, but via transvaginal. So maybe transvaginal, yeah. But I want to say at least 8 weeks. I didn't know. I don't know. I'm going to call it out. I'm going to call a few things out that I don't like about this law. Okay. So one, I think that it's a woman's right to choose. That's just my opinion, right? I don't think anyone should be mandating what you do with your body. Period. That's what I think. Unless it's, again, I don't believe like past the first, if you go past the first trimester, I didn't know I was pregnant until I was like 9 or 10 weeks. And again, and I'm going to tell you why, not because I'm a dummy and I don't know when I get my period, but I've always been irregular since I was 11 years old. I got my period at 11, and I've always been irregular. I've never had a 28-day cycle or a 24-day cycle. I would miss several months. I had to be started on birth control at a certain age so that they could try to regulate and realize that the birth control was giving me heart issues. So I had to be taken off of it. So I have never had a regular period. When I was pregnant with my son, I was on a birth control that was at the time called the Norplant, and it is a 5-year birth control. They insert it in your arm. They have a new one now that they insert your arm, but the one that I had was called the Norplant, and it was back in 2000 and well, in the late 1900s. Okay, so that was supposed to be 5 years. Yeah, it was 1990 something. That's 1900, sir.
No, I said 1800s.
Oh, I said late 1900s. So anyways, no, mine was called the Norplant. I got pregnant with my son, and I was only 3 years into this birth control. It's supposed to last for 5. I didn't even know I was pregnant. And again, my periods are irregular. So would it be anything different of me not knowing that my periods were, like, oh yeah, I'm pregnant, because I'm thinking, hey, I got a double backup plan. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't even know I was pregnant with my son until I was between 8 and 10 weeks. So there's that. And this is just for my personal reasons, right? Why I think that 6-week mark is a little bit, I think that's pushing it. And then my mother-in-law had her period entire 9 months that she was pregnant with my husband. So she didn't know she was pregnant until later too. Like, because especially if it's your first child and you're super thin, you're not going to show right away. You're just not. There was a part of this law. My second issue with this law is there's a part of it where it says that incest is not excusable. And I thought, excuse me? Excuse me? So you are forcing someone to have a child with a family member? That is disgusting. That's my personal thoughts. I'm sorry. I'm going to be real. I'm not going to sugarcoat. I know a lot of people are pro life, and I respect that. But I'm like, no. That's disgusting to me. That's a little disturbing to me. Now, I'm going to give my little extra piece on it, and then I'm going to let Chris give his view on it. I had a conversation with my daughters who are 30 and 24. So we talked about it. And my daughter said, well, if you really want to follow the science, because that's like one of the terms, then why are you not mandating men to have vasectomies? Because a woman cannot make a baby on her own. So why not mandate men to have vasectomies? They are reversible. When they're ready to have a child, they can reverse it. It's simple. And after she said that, I thought about it. And I think mandating anyone to do anything is horrible. But does she have a point? She does. She has a point. She has a point. So I think that, again, I think we've talked about government being involved in shit that they shouldn't be involved in. Yeah, I don't know. Again, for myself, for my own personal body, I can't even have babies anymore, but so I am pro-life for myself, but I feel for other people, no one should dictate what they do with their body, or mandate it. And if you're going to mandate it for women, well then, hey, these men can have babies. And this is what my daughter said to me. My daughter said, women can have one baby at a time. I mean, maybe twins or triplets, right? But men can go out there and how many women can you get pregnant in one day?
I guess it depends on how.
Pregnant in a week.
It depends on how how big your field is and how many seeds you're trying to plant.
Exactly, but I'm saying, but you get the point. You know what I mean? You get the point. And she had a valid point. And I thought, you know what? Touche to her. She's right. She's right. So that's kind of how I feel. I kind of agree with her on certain things. Well, if you're going to mandate it for women, start mandating these men who have like 50 kids and are stuck in child support courts for all these years. Let's go. Let's get it. I agree 100%. If you're not supporting your kids and you got about 17 of them, it's probably time to cut that baby, snip snip. All right. Look at Chris, he's sweating. I said snip and he's sweating. All right, Chris, your thoughts.
I haven't done that, but I heard it's painful. And no, I was shaking my head like, yeah, take care of your kids. I take care of my kids.
Wait, did you just say that you heard a vasectomy is painful?
Yeah.
Were you in the room when?
No, I heard from other people at work.
No. You heard that it's painful. I get it.
Yeah.
But were you present when your children were born?
She was good. Yes. They gave her an epidural. She was talking.
Well, no, she received some good drugs.
No,
that having a baby is like breaking every single bone in your body.
I had 3 C-sections.
Yeah, she had 3 C-sections.
You watched them? Okay,
I watched them. I watched the whole thing.
So I think that a vasectomy.
No, hey, look, but see, here's the thing, though, is that it sounds mean, but like that's like I'm not going to feel that. So like it doesn't bother me so much. But when I think about things getting done to myself, like even dental surgery, I'm like, oh. If you were like, hey, I'm gonna go get my teeth done, I'd be like, oh, that's might hurt. But I don't think about the pain on myself. But when you said vasectomy or whatever, I was like, oh man. Anyways, so because we're gonna come back to that in a second. I hear you. I agree with partial what you said, and that's why I like this panel, is because we can do this and still be friends. So.
Correct. We'll be friends after this. We love each other and respect each other, and nothing is going to change that. We just don't. We can respect each other's opinions.
And so we'll go back to this private party suing, right? So I think they need to clarify that, and I think the private parties involved. I think it needs to have some type of tie. So as being a dad, right? Because I feel like so often. The dad is taking out the picture. So when the baby's born, we want, and I'm not saying everybody, but being in the system, going to court, more often than not, the dad gets the ass end of it. I've been fortunate. I had a really good long run and things were good. But this last time I went to court, things didn't go my way. It blew my mind, but it happens and it's expected. So I think if somebody's going to get an abort, or somebody gets an abortion, there in a private party is going to be able to sue the doctor. They have to have something invested in it. So I think the only people that can do that would be the father.
I agree, actually.
And I'm talking, and maybe grandparents, maybe depending on the age. I think once the girl is over 18, once she's an adult, the only person that would have a right to sue would be the father. And I understand that my body, my choice, but I think to me, and I'm going to take another step because I don't think I started, I think I just thought about this as I was listening to you, I'd be like, I think as I'm like, okay, my body, my choice. So it takes 2 to make a baby, but it takes 1 person to make a decision to get rid of it. They don't have to consult with the other person. And I'm going to put my personal business out there. Because I honestly don't care anymore. But my son's mom, that was kind of that's what her first thing to go to. And it's nothing that he don't know. I've talked to him about it because it has come up and comments were made. And I had to be like, yeah, yep, that was said, or those things that happened. And it's not for him to judge her and to be like, oh, she didn't want me. But it was to say, hey, sometimes we things come up, and there was a decision that she thought she wanted to make, and she didn't do it. But when we sat down, it's like, hey, I told her, like, you're just going to go do this without me. Like, you're going to just make that decision. Like, I'm not ready to be a dad, but I'm going to be a dad. Like, I think I should. I don't think you should. I think if it takes two to make the baby, it should take two to make that decision. And I think if somebody goes and does it without that conversation happening, I think in this instance, then that private or private party can only be the father if they're over age.
I just want to add to that. I agree with you. I think that when they're talking about this, it is very vague in like the suing aspect of it. And so they're saying that because they're saying they can sue the, like, say, the abortion clinic. And I'm thinking, how can you suffer damage by someone else getting an abortion, right? Isn't that the same as saying people wanting to get paid for what slaves went through then? You cannot feel their pain. You have not gone through their pain. Mm-hmm. Nothing has happened to you. So I think it's kind of the same. Does it make sense?
I think.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like saying that anybody can just sue this clinic for
yes.
something is the same thing as saying, like, well, these people that are trying to say they want
reparations for something that never happened to them.
It's the same as saying you want reparations for something that you've never lived through, something you've never experienced. So I think it's the same. So I agree with you 100% on that.
And I just want to throw this out there too. It's like, because I know just being in that situation before, honestly, if this was a rule then, like if this was something that came up, I think even if I was like, okay, fine, you're going to do that, well, I'm taking you to court because that was BS. At the end of the day, that doesn't change anything. So if you could take this, you could go sue the healthcare provider and you could get your little $10,000 that doesn't bring that baby back. And it's not going to make you feel better. And I'm talking just as a father. If that were right, it's like at that point, the money's not going to do you anything, and you still have to live with it. I think, and I just throw that, but I think women, when it comes to abortion, like they think that they're the only person affected by it. But what about the dad? There's a lot of good dads out there. Like
I agree.
I mean, I know it weighed on me. It weighed on me heavy. So the next thing.
Hold on, before I just want to add to that really quick. So when you talk about like it weighed on you heavy, that was your personal experience. But I'm going to play devil's advocate because I just have to. So in that same regard, the man doesn't have to carry that child, right? And again, I'm going to tell you that I would not do it. I'm going to be very open. I have had an abortion in the past. I was going through a lot of hard struggles and I couldn't find a babysitter for the children I already had, and it was an unplanned pregnancy and I was in the most horrible position of my life. I was alone. I was a single mom and I was struggling, and it was rough. It was really bad. And when I tell you that, it was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever done in my life, and I was not the same for years afterwards. Like on the day that child was due, I was not the same person. I was heartbroken, truly heartbroken. And I still think, what would that person have been? So I will say that it is very heartbreaking. But I also think if I look at the other side of that coin, how many children you see out there who are not loved because they were never wanted.
Yes.
So for me to say that, my whole point was to say that the man doesn't have to. I know that it takes two to make a baby, and I do agree with you that it should be a conversation had between two people. But if I'm playing the devil's advocate, I will say also that the woman, her body is going to change forever. She has to carry this human being. It is her responsibility to nurture it. It is her responsibility to take extra care of herself. It is her responsibility to make sure she gets the proper prenatal care. She has to buy new clothing. There are some people. So, and again, I'm not just trying to make points. I'm just trying to give you both sides because I think everybody is welcome at the table. And not to mention that a woman does have risks when carrying a baby. So I just want to put that out there just to give people a little something else, not because I want to be a pain in Chris's ass.
No, but
Yeah, right.
she's like, yeah, right. No, and I hear you, and that's and
I'll
I
leave
think
that
I'm
for Tisha.
yeah, and I'm gonna kind of come back to that too, as far as I understand. Like, I understand the man doesn't carry the baby, but I'll come back to that in a second. The 6 weeks heartbeat thing, right? The whole period. I just want to throw out there, I am not a birthing person. Birthing persons,
Yeah.
person who gives birth. I'm not a bleeding person, whatever they're calling it nowadays.
I was just gonna say, if you're using a liberal term, dude, I'm gonna delete you from the screen.
So
He's
I
a parent, damn it.
I can't speak to the period thing because I'm a boy, but here, so I'm a boy, I'm a man, male,
Oh,
whatever you want to.
they're gonna come for you. They're gonna come for
Right.
you because they're saying that men can have periods. I don't know
So-
how, but they're gonna come for you.
Menstruating person, yeah, I'm none of that. But here's the thing, right? So I think that's the other hard part when it comes to abortions is, when is it right? Like, so we're hearing, okay, well, when it has a heartbeat, when it's 6 weeks, or if you miss your last period or whatever, like they can never come up with a perfect number, and that seems to be the constant battle, which is why. So a lot of my thought process is like, I try to be logical, reasonable. Things have to make sense. So when people can't make sense of stuff and they're arguing over, well, it's 6 weeks, no, it should be 10 weeks. Why went this amount of time? So then at that point, I'm like, well, since y'all can't figure out a time and every woman's different, that's why I always tend to stray back to them. We just don't do it at all. I mean, if you can't come up with a good idea, we can't do it at all. But then I also think about stuff like, if it was a dog and a dog had babies and you went and killed the dogs and killed the babies inside the dog, or let's say killed the babies inside the dog but left the dog living, PETA would be on your ass. PETA would be on your ass so fast. And you have all these crazy activists saying, oh, you murdered some dogs. And you're like, no, I was just giving them an abortion because I couldn't afford puppies. And they would come after you and they throw your ass in prison. There's stories out there like that where people have gone to jail for doing stuff to animals, but when it comes to human life, they're so quick to be like, oh, well, it doesn't have a heartbeat, so it's not actually a person. It's just developing, like we all have to at some point. So that's where I find a lot of my issues with that. And as I was listening to them talk today, it's like, well, I think I caught a clip like Oprah. Was it Oprah? Not Oprah. It was the other one, Whoopi Goldberg, and she was talking about, oh well, yeah, how are you going to let men talk about it? And men don't know; they don't have periods, and some women don't know till they're 10 weeks or 12 weeks, and it's like, well, nobody knows. And if it wasn't a baby, if it was any other animal, you'd get in trouble for stuff. So let's just not do it, and we'll call it a day. And life sucks. And I know there's the incest and the rape, incest and the rape and stuff like that. Shit happens. But if we can't come to the table and talk like me and you were doing, like, we can't come to the table and talk and come up with a freaking time period, then just stop doing it, because nobody's agreed.
So I want to ask you specifically about incest and rape. What are your thoughts on abortion when it comes to that?
Like I was saying earlier, I'm really up on the wall. Like, I want to say yes, but then I really have this internal struggle with myself where I can't, because I just feel like in this situation, once you let a little bit go, look at how it's developed over the last, I'll just say 20 years from what I can remember. It went from being like pro-choice to like pro-abortion. It went from being like as early as possible to like, hey, you got some states that are like, fuck it, if the baby's coming out the vagina and you want an abortion, let's just take it out right now.
Yeah,
like,
that's disgusting.
But that's how, to me, it's like people always want to push the limit.
So let me ask you.
I was raped and I became pregnant.
Oh, Tisha, you want me to?
I just heard it.
You want me to? I'll say it out loud. So Tisha's.
heard it.
And okay, regardless of the fact that I'm
Ooh.
fixed, okay, beyond that.
I know. We're speaking because Tisha, she's she can't have babies anymore. I haven't taken care of it because I'm not gonna lie, I'm chicken shit. I'm afraid of surgery. So her question was, hey, and I'm not going nowhere. I'm not going anywhere. I love her, and I. So here's the thing. Her question for me was, what would you do if I got raped and got pregnant? I still don't think I could do it. I don't. It would be a shitty situation, but we would have to ride that out because there's just something about it that doesn't sit with me. And if for those of you that don't know, she's like right here on the other computer running comments. It doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't. I think.
But what if I couldn't do it?
I think we'd have to really have a long discussion.
Do you think you would try to convince me?
She asked me, do I think I would try to convince her? Hell yeah, I would.
To have
Because,
it?
to have it, just because there's just something like, I don't know, like after I seen my other kids, like, and I've even thought about adopting a kid, I just got this.
I don't know. That's different.
I don't know.
We're both in agreement with
Yeah,
adoption.
but I'm just saying, but like I got this thing, like it ain't like, yeah, something bad happened, but I don't know. I don't think I could do it. I don't. Because at the end of the day, it's like,
You do realize that you have to probably work through the elemental stuff with me
yes.
through that whole thing. If
Yes.
That's the case.
But I think we would have to work. Huh?
Sorry, I was yelling
Oh, I
to
think
her. I thought I
so.
knew
Her
what
thing,
you
what she said was, is I would probably have to work through a lot of mental stuff with her. But I think we would have to work through mental stuff anyways, because we're speaking hypothetically because you were raped. That would be its own mental thing, and then the decision would be: do you keep the baby and work through that, or do you have an abortion and work through that? So that's really a jacked up situation. Like I said, I'm conflicted when it comes to those things. I really do get conflicted about it, and since you put it back on me, I still don't think I would, because it just doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't. But I don't know. Maybe it has a little bit.
That's a good question because everybody's coming up with more questions.
Yeah. And maybe and we can say maybe it has a little bit to do with my faith, and I know I don't talk about it a lot, but maybe that's what it has to do with, and I just can't. For me, it's like, hey, if I'm gonna Christian, I'm gonna do my best to be Christian and to live a better life. Like I'm really gonna try, and I've never wanted to. Murder's wrong in itself. I understand self-defense, but I couldn't sit there and be like, oh, there was this potential life, whether it was mine or not, and aid or agree in getting rid of it. So it really is conflicting. That is a really good question, because I might have to think about that a little bit more.
I just asked Ricky the same question. I text him because he's downstairs. He's downstairs. And now Ricky, I want to say that Ricky is probably on the same page Chris is, as far as Ricky is pro-life. And I respect his I respect that he feels that way, right? We don't agree on everything, but we are two different, very, very two different people. So
in our environment,
to me was, how I already feel about abortion. So I said, you would want me to have it? He's like, yes. I was like,
yeah.
Well, dang.
Yes. Oh, Chris, what if she medically couldn't? So, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Now, I said, when we originally started this off, I said rape, incest, and medical, like a medical reason. Those would be the ones where I'm like, okay, there might be some room in there. Like, I'm still conflicted, but I think if it was medically going to do something to her and she can carry it out, I would put that back on. Like, I'd be like, that would be the discussion me and John Teach would have to have. Like, hey, if you carry this full term, you might not make it. Or if the doctor, let's just say the doctor said that, and we were sitting here talking, and I'd be like, so, babe, what do you want to do? Are we going to ride this out and pray and hope that we make it through this? Or do we want to not risk the chances, because your chances of passing from carrying this baby are very high? Or something was going on wrong, and let's just say like it was just damaging her body. now we're not talking one life, we're talking potentially two lives. And I think that would be, to me, that goes back to that, like, that's the exception. And that's a really hard conversation to have. But if she was the pro-life person, like, no, babe, I'm writing this out. We're going to have this baby. And, you know, let's just say God's will, you know, if that's what it is, that's what it is. And if I go in the process, I'm going with it. Because at the end of the day, I'm still that I don't know. I mean, I would have to support her. It would be a really tough one, but if she wanted to do it, I would go with it. And if that meant my other children went without their mom, like, that would suck. But that would be a discussion we would have to have. And we would probably have to have with the kids. I mean, because honestly, it's that they are a part of this family. Like, that's their mom. So that's a good question.
I do want to ask you. So, since you are pro-life, what is your thoughts on mandating vasectomies?
So, and that's kind of where I was going to get to, because I got
guys in the comments, please answer. What are your thoughts about mandating vasectomies for men?
So,
because men can have multiple babies, like I said earlier. Women can only give one birth every 9 months.
yes. And I know a couple guys out there that have just a shit ton of kids with a whole bunch of women. Like, they're just reckless. So for me, when we talk mandates, this goes into government involvement. And as time has went on, especially over the last couple of years, I'm more leaning towards, I don't want the government involved in my life as much as they are. I don't want them giving me, I don't want them, like, I understand people on hard times giving them a little bit of food stamps or some financial aid, but I think they do way too much. I think they've gotten themselves way too much into our lives. And I think if they were to come and be like, hey, we're going to mandate vasectomies, I think they would be overstepping their boundaries. That would be like them saying, okay, we're going to mandate a woman to get her 2 times so they don't have kids.
So you don't think that mandating abortion is the government overstepping their boundaries?
No, I do think that I think the fact that the government has to be involved in that at all is overstepping their boundaries.
Okay.
But because the fact that, to me, in a sense, like, it is murder, and because we have laws against that, I think, if, you know, especially if they're using it for birth control, like to me, that's just like, that's a no. Like, if you're just being reckless and having sex, like, no, to me, I think something's wrong. And I'll kind of get into that in a sec, but I think because the government has to get involved to say, hey, we have to put some limitations on this or whatever, it's sad. And I still think they're overstepping their boundaries. I would much rather them not be involved in any of it. And
I agree.
Whether it be vasectomies, forcing somebody to get their, what is it called when you get your 2 times? Is there a certain name for that? What is it?
A tubulation.
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 That sounds just as bad.
He can't say it.
I mean, I don't think that they should be involved. And I'm gonna go. And the reason why I feel like this, I feel like what would solve this issue of abortions and careless fathers, like, you're never going to get rid of all of it. Just like you're never going to get rid of racism. Like, there's always going to be that 1 or 2 people out there that's really racist. I'm not talking racial prejudice. You're never going to get rid of crime 100%. Homelessness. We could go down a whole list of stuff that you're just never going to get rid of. These people will be there. Evil will be in this world. There'll be people that are down on their luck. I think when the government has started overstepping themselves and getting involved, it's made everything worse. So what I'm getting to is, I don't think they should mandate anything. And if I could, I don't think they should be involved in abortions. I think what they should do is stay the hell out of everybody's lives and say, hey, we're not going to give you any support or aid because your fuck ups in life, and not saying everybody's, but if the people are out there messing out, if you want to be out there and you're not using protection and you're not doing what you're supposed to do, that's on you and your family. Because if your mom and dad didn't teach you how to wrap your shit up, or to have safe sex, or matter of fact, not even to have sex at all and wait till you're married and you're out there popping out kids, or you're out there impregnating half your city, hey, that's on you. You have to now deal with that. And that's, to me, I feel the same way with like I agree with spousal support, because the family thing, and if the wife can't go to work, but when it starts coming to child support and they just start getting their hands too deep in, I throw it all out the window. I don't think there should be spousal support. I don't think there should be child support. I think when the government gets in their hands in, they make it easy for some people to leave and feed off the system, and they don't. Life is not meant to be easy. Life is meant to be hard. Life is meant to be like, you got all these deadbeat dads. I just feel like if parents were more involved in their kids' life, teaching these kids, dads were doing what they're supposed to be doing and teaching their men to be men and take care of their families, we wouldn't have to go through this shit. But we've lost all of that. So now we're over here trying to put bandages on these wounds that we've I won't say opened up, but we've made them bigger. And the problem is we're not going to agree on any of it.
Right.
I think we might come to a common ground, but that doesn't go back. Like, if they come back and say, hey, we're just going to make it 6 weeks across the board, honestly, you'd have my buy-in. I'd be like, I'm pro-life, but if we're going to do six to 10 weeks across the board, because not everybody believes in what I believe in, or believes in Christianity or Islam or anything that says that, hey, this isn't right, or just their culture. Like, if we're like, okay, it's America, we're the melting pot, 6 to 10 weeks, that's it, cool. And then we don't end the discussion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The question was, I'm curious, do those that oppose abortion, support the death penalty and assisted suicide? I think assisted suicide is crazy. Why? I don't know. I think it's crazy. Personally, I know other people go through it. I think it's crazy because I have a healthy fear of death. Like, I don't want to die. And I think at this moment, but I think that if down the road, if I was really sick or something, and I was in that state where it's like, okay, I'm not going to get better, assist, and I don't even like I hear what you're saying, is Randy Davis, like assisted suicide. I don't know.
I don't mean for like just suicide just because, or
I'm against.
Like if you're like
on your way out.
And
Yes.
you're like on your deathbed and people don't want to let you die because they don't want you to let you go, but you're ready to go.
Can you hear her?
Kind of like,
okay, so she's not talking. No, and I'm with you on that. So if it was like you're young and you just don't want to live anymore, and they want to assist you in that, I that doesn't sit well with me. Now, if you're really older, you got cancer, and you just know that you're not going to make it, like your body's shutting down, organs are shutting down, and you say, hey, I just want to get it done, and I want to ride this thing out simple and easy because it's going to happen anyways. Maybe I could see that, especially if you're in a lot of pain or something. When it comes to the death penalty, I don't know. It depends. I mean, if we're going to lock people up for life in prison and stop giving them all the perks and making it like they're at a 5-star hotel, and they just let them sit there for, and let them survive for pennies on the dollar a day with the bare minimum. They have something to wash themselves. They have water. They have food. If you're going to do that, like, I'm good with that. I think the death penalty is if you have no prisons and you got a mass murderer out there and he's not, and there's no way to contain that person. I'm 100% with the death penalty then. But the problem, with that, we're in a civilization where we have prisons and jails all over the place, whether you like them or not. So I don't think anybody should go through it.
All right. So I want to answer this, and I am pro-choice, but I still want to answer it. I am pro death penalty, period. I am pro death penalty. I think that we as tax-paying citizens should not have to pay for these animals. And I'm talking about the animals that would deserve should go up for the death penalty, right? I'm not talking about petty ass crimes. I'm not talking about stuff like that, but I'm talking about these repeat offenders that are murdering people. And I'm not talking about just serial killers. They should get the death penalty. I think that these pedophiles, especially they come out and they're repeat pedophiles, they should get a death penalty. I am all for a death penalty. I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel. I'm not going to be fake for anybody or to save anyone's feelings. I believe in the death penalty. I also believe that if you are suffering from something and that you want to do the assisted suicide, I believe that is your choice. I believe in my body, my choice, which is why I'm not getting vaccinated. So,
I think we agree on that. No, and when you put it like that, Charlie, though, like the repeat offenders, and that's kind of what's saying. Like, if there was no way to keep them caged up, like they're just out there killing people.
But that's the thing.
Yes,
why should we even keep them caged up? Why should I pay to feed them and give them free medical and all this shit?
I don't know about free medical. I'd just let them fucking rot. I know, I'm saying, but I don't know. Like I said, the bare minimum. Like you give them some food, a little bit of water, and just let them.
You don't get.
I know they
don't. Now.
I know
these guys. They have cell phones. They have FaceTime.
That's what I'm saying. Like but they shouldn't have any of that shit. I don't think that they should have any of that. It should be rough. Now, here's my question for you: what costs more, the death penalty or letting them sit in prison? I mean, currently, right now, I think letting them sit in prison as of recently might be costing us more because they got J's, they got TVs, they got cell phones, and all this other shit. But if they didn't have all that, how much
can the death penalty cost, right? Like you're giving all these people
I'm talking like
free COVID vaccines, give you a little night juice and good night. It don't take that many people. It'll take a doctor, give you a little vaccine, boop. You know, maybe they could give it, you know, they even got the Walgreens employees giving you vaccines.
They do. Okay, so I will agree with you on this, and I think this might be good for everybody to see. We can agree on something, right? So repeat offenders, right? So I think if it's like a gang altercation, right, or whatever, right, and it's heated, and one person kills another person, and they've never done anything else in their life, and I think that person, depending on the situation, if they let's say they did out of cold blood, they deserve to sit in jail for the rest of their life and just rot away. If they kill somebody out of cold blood. Part of the reason is because I don't think killing that person like that doesn't help anybody else. But now, or like the family, like unless you really got something wrong with you, like if you take somebody's life, like that's not going to bring back the person's life that they took or make you feel better. It just doesn't. More often than not, it hurts people. Now, where I agree with you, if it is a repeat offender, yes, I don't think they would. Oh, I don't know. With the way the world's going right now, we keep letting people out of jail. So, yeah, if somebody just keeps going out and killing people, then yes. But that goes back to if we can't keep them locked up, then yes, I'm all for the death penalty. Or you got me with the pedophile. If somebody's out there just and keeps hurting kids and they keep getting out, then yes, maybe the death penalty. But then at that, I'd have to question, why are we letting these people out so fast? We have a broken system, and we know we have a broken system, and it's apparent because where you're at in Chicago, people seem to just get out on it. They could shoot somebody and they're out. I was reading something earlier where somebody had killed somebody and Kim Fox, the state wanted, or a judge wanted to press charge or something like that, wanted to keep moving forward with it. And Kim Fox came and replaced the judge, found a new judge, found somebody new from Chicago PD, and then they dropped the case. So I think in that, yes, but we got a broken system on both ends.
Yeah, and Randy says that the death penalty is more expensive because of the appeals process. It's been studied. Okay, so I get all that, but I'm thinking we should not have all these extra steps for these repeat ass offenders. There shouldn't be all these extra steps. You know what? You've been found guilty 3 times. Like I say, let's go back to, 3 strikes you out. Literally nights out. Lights out.
It's kind of fucked up, but if we're going to talk assisted suicide, I think if somebody if they've done something to deserve the death penalty, and I think the only thing that deserves the death penalty No, I mean, I'm going to go pedophile. So, like, if you've done something that people have deemed worthy for the death penalty, for people to stop hurting people, I go back to, man, just lock them up. They don't get shit. Food, water, and a shower just so they stay clean. Maybe some medicine. And if you want to talk assisted suicide, help them. Well, I mean, we'll help them some assisted suicide. If they get 20 years down the road, and they're like, I can't do this no more. Fuck, here's a bed sheet or something. I don't know, but I don't think that we should. I don't think that we should be. It shouldn't be easy for them. And the reason why I brought that up, like that appeals process, is because most people sit there 20, 30, 40 years.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't think that they shouldn't be sitting there that long either. Like, let's get it over with. We already determined you're going night-night. Go take you to the doctor's office, give you a little shot, have the doctor pronounce you, send your ass to the morgue, period. Like 1, 2, 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we make shit more difficult than it should have to be. But if you're out here raping these kids repeatedly and you're out here just whatever the kind of perv you are, and you're doing this shit repeatedly, and then you're going and doing this shit, murdering people, good night. You're done. We don't need to.
I 100% agree with you.
I want to address Jonathan's comment before we move on really quick. So he says, when it comes to abortion, for me, I always come back to the fact that regardless of how the life was conceived, it is still a life that was created and never asked to be created. And while rape and incest are terrible acts, I feel we can't take the marginal cases involving these things and use it to justify people who use abortion as birth control to avoid responsibility. So I'm going to say, Jonathan, I agree with you I agree with you most of the time. On this comment here, I'm not going to agree with it. So I'm not going to agree with the fact that birth control is being used by everybody who's been raped or who's been a victim of incest or rape. And I don't think that they use it as a form of birth control. I think there are people that use it as a form of birth control. That's just a very different thing, right? That's in one extreme. And I do know people who use it as a form of birth control. But I will say, too, that we have to understand, and we have to, when it comes to incest or anything like that, and I'm going to be very, very open with you guys. I was a victim of it as a child. And I think if for some reason that had happened to me and I wound up pregnant, who is anyone to tell me that I should have to live with that hurt day in and day out? What I would think of that child's parents or know the monster that they truly were. So I think that mental parts come into play. Would I be a good parent to that child? Would I love that child in the way that it truly deserved to be loved? And I don't know if everybody is built that way. And I'm not saying I wouldn't have, but I'm just saying that even without the child, there are times that I have issues with what has happened, because that's never going to go away. I don't think there's any healing ever. Yes, you can move forward. Yes, you can forgive. Yes, God has gotten me through so much. But I think that for me, there are still things that will come back to me, or nightmares that I will have every now and then. And I think that, how does adding a child to that mix help? So that's the only reason I'm going to say that. I don't think it's a form of birth control. I don't think someone's going to say repeatedly that they were raped just to get an abortion. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of my thought on that. But you know that I still love you, Jonathan.
So before we move on to Australia, I just want to say, like you had said a minute ago, that we make things too difficult, and I agree with you. I think what we don't make difficult, we make too easy. And I know there was a comment that we made like jail too easy, right? But I think you're right. We do make things too difficult. If we have laws and we have rules, right? Just like the Constitution, you burn the flag, that there's a penalty that comes with that. And because we've not enforced this, then and we've overcomplicated. Oh, it's a freedom of speech. It's freedom of expression, even though freedom of expression isn't in the Constitution. Like we made it too difficult to handle that, and that's just one small example. Then nothing gets done, and it's the same thing on the other side, like with the death penalty or abortions. Like we just make it over, or we overdo it. We make it way more complicated than it has to be, and the process of solving the problem is we make it difficult, and then we wind up here where we don't have a solution, and people are still disagreeing. Like I feel like we come to the table and make a law, and we all partially agree with it, or we vote on it, the majority rules. And I'm telling you, like, so one thing before we change comments: America is a republic. Democracy, we're a democratic republic. Democracy is a part of that system, right? I think people got to understand the republic is the people. We have the power. And if we use democracy right, we can start voting on this stuff. Like in your area, like, hey, take it to the national polls. What does the majority of America feel about abortions? Boom, there you go. Majority of America doesn't want it. That's how we're going to take this on. Whether it's 51% or 65. America doesn't want abortions. That's the where we're going to head with. And if it's the other way around, then we got to go with it because the majority of the country supports it. And I think that's what's hurting us, is because we actually don't know what the majority of America really wants, because we can never come together to vote on it or to have the discussion. We make it too difficult. You're right, Charlie.
Answer this question. So
Go ahead.
Denise said, what if a man hurts your kid? Denise, I don't know if you're talking to me or you're talking to Chris.
To me,
So we'll
if a man hurt my kids, what would I do?
Would you still believe in the death penalty? Or would
He
you
wouldn't.
still be against it if
They
that
better
was
catch it.
a pedophile?
So I think in that case, like, they better catch him before I do. What was that thing I seen the other day? Where it's like, it's going to go 0 to prison real quick. Like, I'm not fucking around. And if that were the case, like, and I think that's where some people don't understand. It's like, there's some of us out there, like, if somebody did something to my kids like that and I caught him, I'm willing to face all consequences because that's my kid. And I'm not going to let somebody get away with it, knowing the way our system is right now. But I'm also mad enough to say I'll face the consequences. And now, is that fucked up to the rest of my family? Maybe.
Or messed up to the rest of the kids.
Or to the rest of the kids.
Or to the rest of the kids who said, don't kill the pedophile.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be a rough one.
That's why they're asking that. Like you said, you're basically said, it's okay for a pedophile to sit in jail and not put the death penalty, but not for the pedophile who attacks my kids.
If I do it, I see where you're going with it. But that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, so we're talking about the repeat offender. So, like, if somebody's continuing to do it, like, if I get a hold of that person, I'm saying just running off emotion. What would I do from the second I heard? If I was to run off my emotions, that's probably what I would do, and I would face the consequences. If the police got to them first and they took them in, at that point, I can't do nothing. And this is where we would have the discussion. Once the emotions run out and I get my sense, because I'm just being real with people, like, that would be my first thought. I think and then once they're in prison, like, it's still the same. Like, once the system has them, if their law is they don't, he does something to a kid and they don't die, then that's the law. But that's where I go back to, like, what Charlie said. If they're a repeat offender and they keep coming out, then maybe we got to take them out.
Yeah. Autumn asked a question earlier. She said something like, what if that was someone did something to your kid, not a nasty question or something like that. But I don't really understand the question. So,
it was the same one she put back up.
Yeah. Would you still say that if it was your kid? Not nasty, serious question. I don't know exactly
it was the same
what
one
she was talking
just
about.
Put up.
Right.
She was saying she was not trying to be nasty. She's asking a real question.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the question was.
The same one. Would you say that if it was your kid?
So we're talking about the pedophile. If a man hurts your child, the pedophile, death penalty.
Okay.
So it was the same question.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we addressed your questions. And I would just want to make sure that, like, you know, we're on the same page, because sometimes the comments come in a little bit late. So,
And you know what? And this is actually, I'm kind of glad we're having these discussions, because I think, like, sometimes we think we know what we're going to do. And like I told you, like I might, you asked me a question about my kids, and I'll be honest with you, like if I was running off emotions, like that would be my first emotion. But then sometimes, like, we're sitting here talking, and it's like, you know, we can get a different perspective on things, and maybe because I'm not right. We're not, none of us always right. So I would have to, I might say one thing, and then when somebody puts back, well, what if it was your kids? Like that really challenges me on what I'm saying. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think we need more of that. Like, throw it back. What if it were you? Because then that's going to make me, I'm going to have to put myself in those shoes and say, okay, what would I do? And then I got a lot of thinking to do after that. So I appreciate some of the questions that have come in.
yeah, you guys are really like having some really good questions and topics tonight. And you know what? I should have known the whole abortion topic was going to take us. Woo-hoo!
So you want to wrap up with,
we're gonna yeah, we'll wrap up. We'll talk about Australia, because I think that's the only thing we really wanted to talk about. Otherwise, right, was the lockdowns in Australia, but we could talk about that in our next show. But yeah, if you guys thank you. I was hoping you wouldn't take that wrong. No, we're not. Just so that you guys know, any questions that you guys ask, especially like Autumn, we know that you're always on here. We know who our regulars are, and we know you guys are just asking questions. And again, this platform is not here to be an echo chamber. As you can see, Chris and I, we don't have the same views, but I don't look at him like, ugh, you know what I mean? And he doesn't look at me like, ugh. You know what I mean? Like, we can have these conversations. And this is kind of the point. One of the points of our platform is to show you guys that we can have different opinions and still be friends. We're not cursing each other out. We're not judging one another. I respect the way Chris feels, because I feel that it is his right to feel any way he so chooses.
and that's the same thing with you. Like, in listening, and that's what I was going to tell you earlier. Like, listening to your story and listening to what you know, things that you've been through. That's why I wouldn't be mad. I can't be mad at you for your outlook on life, or what you may or may not do with your body, or what you feel is right, because I'm not Chelly, and I haven't lived in your shoes, and I don't know what you've been through and why you would make the decisions you are making, thinking or knowing that these are the best decisions for your life. I don't know that. So I think it's a good reminder, especially, you know, as we go along and we get little pieces of each other's history, and you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that. And then you're like, okay, and you could kind of understand where people are coming from. And I think we need more of that, because it this goes back to that old, like, remember that breaking the barriers thing? Like, this is what's doing that. Like, this is what's breaking those barriers, so where we can start having a conversation, and then maybe at some point more of us will start to come to the middle, and really have a understanding and yes, instead of attack. It's like, so like Tisha said, more of an understanding instead of an attack.
100%.
And to let you know, like, when we're done with these shows, like, there's never once, like, even if we disagree, the one thing I hate is like when people have other people on their shows, and then they're done, they're like, oh, like, you'll catch them in a show later or whatever, they're like, oh, that person's dumb, or they're always bashing somebody for their thoughts and opinions like that. I can't stand that. Like, there's a lot of people I disagree with, but I'm not going to bash them, because for what? That's their opinion. Even if I think it's dumb, that's their opinion.
Yeah, and I think that that's the one thing that I love about our show, is the fact that you guys can come into the comments and ask us stuff. There's sometimes we have trolls that come in here that just are like, say stupid little things. Like, we're not even talking about, let's say, the president. They'll be like, oh, he's the best president ever. And we didn't even talk about the president. So I know that they're a troll. And again, we don't want you guys to have the same opinions as us or agree with us. We want to just plant a seed and have you search for yourself and look into things for yourself. We want to promote having a conversation with someone who doesn't think the same as you do. Because how can Chris truly understand where I'm coming from if I don't talk to him? And how can I truly understand where Chris is coming from if I don't talk to him? And again, when we get off this show, a lot of times we'll hang out backstage and we are not even talking about the show anymore. We're just cracking up and talking about our personal lives and sharing. And like, there's no hard feelings that Chris doesn't agree with me. There's no hard feelings I don't agree with him. Same thing with John Tisha.
And you know, Charlie, it's not just talking, but listening.
Right.
Like that, like that's the other thing. Like it's the listening, because a lot of times people just talk to each other, but we listen to each other. We listen, like we watch the comments, not the, you know, the people that are what do you call them, the trolls, but we read the comments, we listen, and we hear you guys, and that's what we need more of, huh?
She said, too bad married people can't take clues from you too.
We're married, we do.
Oh, so if you want to see a good one, go to our YouTube page. I think, did we put that up on our YouTube page? The one with me, Tisha, you, and Ricky?
I think so.
It should be there. So we did like a couples one.
We'll have to revisit that one because it's been a while.
Yeah.
We'll have to do one again.
Or we even pull it up and then just kind of go over some of the things we talked about. That was a while ago. Yeah, we did one. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Angie said, post it. If I find it, I'll go back and I'll post it. We'll post it to all of our pages so that you guys can see it. But yeah, so for tonight, that's going to be pretty much it. I think that we talked about a lot. I didn't expect to be on here this long, but I should have known, like, anything with abortion is going to be very detailed. Just from being on lives with you guys and even chatting afterwards, I can honestly say no matter what we agree or disagree on, you always keep it positive and respectful. And backstage, the jokes and positive energy is always dope. Yes, Jonathan has been on with us. And like I said, when we get off camera, we'll sit back here and we'll like talk about our personal lives. We'll laugh, we'll crack up. Sometimes we have little drinking parties. We haven't done that in a while, but we need to have one of those too. But we want to thank you guys so much for joining us tonight and staying on as long as you did. Please don't forget to like and share our video. Put a little thumbs up or a little heart, whatever you prefer. We would greatly appreciate it. Please make it public so that it can reach more people. On that note, the only thing I'm going to say is that be kind. Have an open mind, have an open heart, have open ears, and listen. You don't have to like what people say, right? Like, honestly, when Chris, if there's something he talks about that I don't necessarily agree with, it doesn't even bother me. You know why? Because I know how good of a person him and John Tisha are. And I know that it's coming from a place that's just where their morals line up. And I respect people's morals. And I wish that we would all do that. So that's going to be my final thoughts for tonight. Chris?
I think I kind of laid it all out there tonight. No, that's really it. I think it was a good discussion. I honestly didn't think we were going to spend as much time on abortion, just because I thought we, in my head, expecting to cover just, the rules and the laws, but nonetheless, I think it was a good discussion. And I think hopefully what it could show people is that even though we disagree, and I can't even say we disagree fully, like we just have difference of opinions and we see things a little different. But at the end of the day, I know people that are pro-choice that are good people. They got love in their heart, and I don't think everybody, and you're one of them, yes. And I think especially, because I know a handful of women that have done it, and it's not easy. So if it were easy, then I would, say that maybe I have a different opinion. But I think what we're able to show tonight is hopefully both sides, pro-life, pro-choice. We're not that much different outside of, you know, a few things, but we still have love in our hearts, and we can still come to the table, and we should be able to come to the table and talk about it. That's really it.
On that note, we're going to say goodnight to you guys, and we'll see you guys in our next video. Till then, you guys be